Well, as predicted, we're seeing the storm surge and the high tides moving down now the east coast. It was higher than we thought it might be at South Shields, although that doesn't mean that it will be the same further south, because conditions change all the time. But nonetheless, as predicted, this is going to be a pretty severe event, and certainly the equal, if not greater, than the one we had in 1953, which you talked about earlier.
Yeah. What is going to be the worst point of the tidal surge and the worst hit areas, do you think?
Well, the high tides are going to be, depending on where you are on the east coast, they're any time between 11 o'clock tonight and later on 1 o'clock in the morning, going from Norfolk and Lincolnshire, Humberside down to Essex and Kent. We're taking the precaution of closing the Thames barrier to protect the Thames and London. The area evacuation is Great Yarmouth and towns alongside the coast in Norfolk and Suffolk and Essex.
Yeah, well, we've seen a lot of extensive flooding in Wales already today. We're hearing that 18,000 homes have been evacuated in Boston and Lincolnshire tonight. Are you expecting much flooding and widespread flooding?
We are. Predictions at the moment suggest that maybe 3,000 properties might flood, but that will change as the conditions change. It's quite difficult to predict exactly how the storm will play out at night. And I think that's a particularly big issue for us, because this storm is hitting and the high tides are right in the middle of the night, and it's very difficult even during the day to organise evacuations and keep people safe. It's particularly difficult in the middle of the night. And I think those people who you interviewed who are taking sensible precautions are doing absolutely the right thing, and certainly listening to the police, the emergency services, looking at websites, the news websites or the Environment Agency or the Met Office, is exactly the right thing to do. This will be a severe event.
OK, let's bring Jim into this conversation now. Where did this storm come from?
It came from an area of low pressure which has been quite slow moving over the northern part of the UK. In fact, it's further than that. It's actually into the northern North Sea. Very, very typical when you get a storm with this depth that it creates these sort of situations. They don't happen very often. Got to go back to 1953, has been said. One or two others since, but these deep, intense, low pressure areas, slow moving
and affecting
event.
Such large parts of the country.
Yeah, they do. The winds, first of all, and we've seen what's happened today in terms of the wind. But as I say, this is a kind of unwinding storm. So the next comes the surge, and as the low pressure moves slowly eastwards towards the continent, that's it's going to unravel there as well.
So explain to me how this tidal surge is being created.
It's almost like dropping a pebble into water. If you imagine that you throw a pebble into a lake or a pond, for example, it goes into the centre, and then you get the ripple effect. In a very similar way, you get when you get a deep area of low pressure, the ripple effect from the tides moves southwards through the North Sea and affect the coasts of Britain and the near continent.
And Phil, it is a real worry, isn't it? A real concern for people who live particularly in coastal areas. What should they be doing, do you think, tonight?
They certainly need to be ensuring that they've got somewhere safe to go, that it will be night time, so they should have a torch and they should have blankets and things to keep warm. If they live in single-storey accommodation, then they really need to think about moving out and moving somewhere safer. Moving things upstairs would be helpful. Again, listening to all the advice you can get from the television and the radio. I was in Great Yarmouth in 2007, when the storm you referred to, and we were literally a ketchup bottle's height away from flooding Great Yarmouth then, and we certainly think this will be the equal, if not worse than that today.
It sounds very frightening, doesn't it? Do you think we have the right flood defences in place these days or not?
I think since 1953 we've had a massive increase in investment in flood risk management and in defences. The defences that we've got up and down the east coast, particularly in areas where there's a high population, are significantly better than they ever were in 1953. And the warning services, the amount of time we've had to prepare for this, and the preparation and the coordination of the emergency services and the Environment Agency is extremely good now, and we practice regularly for events such as this.
Okay.
Events, but no matter how big your defence, there's always a chance that it will be overtopped by a big event.
Well, good.